August 2nd, 1944. Headquarters Panzer Lehr Division, Mortagne, France. Oberst Rudolf von Lauchert studied the reconnaissance photographs spread across his field table with growing amusement. The images, taken by Luftwaffe reconnaissance flights over American positions, showed endless columns of peculiar vehicles, half truck, half tank, advancing through the French countryside. "The Americans bring their trucks to battle," von Lauchert remarked to his staff officers, unable to suppress a laugh. "Look at these mongrels. Half-tracks. Neither proper tanks nor proper trucks. A compromise that achieves neither mobility nor protection." The photographs were clear enough to show details. The M3 half-tracks looked awkward, ungainly, trucks with tank tracks instead of rear wheels, open-topped, thinly armored, carrying infantry in exposed compartments. To German officers who had revolutionized mechanized warfare with purpose-built armored personnel carriers, these American improvisations seemed almost pathetic. "They lack the armor of our Hanomags," observed Hauptmann Klaus Weber, Panzer Lehr's intelligence officer. "The open tops make them vulnerable to artillery. The half-track configuration means they cannot match our tanks for speed or our trucks for efficiency. They are expensive solutions to problems we solved better with conventional vehicles." Von Lauchert had commanded tanks in France in 1940 and Russia in 1941 to 42. He understood mechanized warfare intimately. The Americans, he concluded, were throwing together improvised vehicles because they lacked the tactical sophistication to develop proper armored doctrine. "These half-tracks prove American industrial abundance cannot compensate for tactical incompetence," von Lauchert announced. "They build thousands of mediocre vehicles instead of hundreds of excellent ones. When we counterattack tomorrow, these trucks playing at tanks will be the first to die." What von Lauchert didn't know, what no German officer could have imagined, was that those trucks playing at tanks represented the most successful mechanized infantry vehicle ever built. A design that would keep American infantry advancing faster than German panzers could retreat. That would maintain mobility across terrain where German vehicles bogged down. That would still be in frontline service 25 years after the war ended. In 48 hours, von Lauchert's counterattack would collide with American mechanized infantry mounted in those half-tracks. The Germans would advance 7 miles in 36 hours before being stopped, an embarrassingly slow rate for what Hitler had ordered as a Blitzkrieg-style breakthrough. The Americans, in their mongrel half-tracks, would advance 150 miles in 2 weeks, pursuing German forces faster than the Wehrmacht had advanced through France in 1940. The vehicles German officers mocked as tactical failures would prove more strategically decisive than the panzers that were supposed to be superior. This is the story of how German tactical excellence met American industrial pragmatism, how purpose-built perfection lost to good enough mass production, and how the half-track, dismissed as a compromise that achieved nothing, proved that in modern warfare, mobility matters more than perfection. Numbers matter more than quality, and showing up everywhere matters more than being invincible anywhere. The Germans were about to learn that sometimes the best tank killer isn't another tank. It's a truck with tracks that can keep infantry moving faster than panzers can reposition. The story of the American half-track begins not with engineering brilliance, but with industrial pragmatism, a fundamentally different approach to military equipment than German design philosophy. In 1940, as the Wehrmacht demonstrated Blitzkrieg tactics in France, American military observers identified a critical capability gap. German mechanized infantry and SDK FZ-251 half-tracks kept pace with panzers, allowing combined arms coordination that overwhelmed French and British forces. The U.S. Army needed similar capability but faced different constraints. American factories excelled at mass-producing trucks, not specialized armored vehicles. American tactical doctrine emphasized mobility and firepower over protection. American soldiers, drawn from a motorized civilian society, could maintain complex vehicles that would overwhelm European conscript armies. The solution was the M2/M3 half-track series, essentially a truck with the rear wheels replaced by tracked suspension. The design was deliberately simple, using existing truck components, engine, transmission, cab, combined with tracked running gear adapted from agricultural tractors. German military observers studying intelligence reports on American half-tracks were unimpressed. The vehicles violated principles that Wehrmacht mechanization had established. German principles. Purpose-built design optimized for specific tactical roles. Maximum protection within weight constraints. Standardized across the force to simplify logistics. Quality over quantity. Better to have 100 excellent vehicles than 1,000 adequate ones. American approach. Adaptable design using civilian automotive components. Adequate protection, emphasis on mobility and firepower. Variants for dozens of roles built on common chassis. Quantity has quality of its own. Better to have 1,000 adequate vehicles than 100 excellent ones. The philosophical divide was captured in competing design specifications. German SDKF's 251 Hanomag. Weight 8.9 tons. Armor 14.5 millimeters front, 8 millimeters sides, sloped for maximum effectiveness. Crew 2+10 infantry. Speed 34 miles per hour road, 12 miles per hour cross country. Production 15,252, all variants 1939 to 45. Design philosophy: maximize protection and military specific performance. American M3 half-track. Weight 9.3 tons. Armor 12.7 millimeters front, 6.35 millimeters sides. Vertical, easier to manufacture. Crew 2+10 infantry. Speed 45 miles per hour road, 25 miles per hour cross country. In practice, often faster. Production 41,170, all variants. 1940 to 45, more than 2.5 times German production. Design philosophy: maximize production, maintenance, and operational flexibility. German tactical schools studied these specifications and reached clear conclusions. The Hanomag was superior. Better armor, better protection. Better optimization for combat. The American half-track was a truck with tracks. Adequate for moving infantry, but inferior for actual combat. Oberst Hermann Balck, one of Germany's most successful Panzer commanders, wrote in a 1943 tactical assessment, "American mechanized forces rely on the M3 half-track, a vehicle that represents industrial thinking rather than military thinking. It is essentially a modified truck, adequate for transportation, inadequate for combat. Its thin armor cannot withstand even rifle-caliber armor-piercing rounds at close range. Its open top makes it vulnerable to artillery fragments and grenades. Its high silhouette makes it easy to target. Most critically, the vehicle attempts to serve too many roles. It is simultaneously a personnel carrier, weapons platform, reconnaissance vehicle, and supply transport. This flexibility comes at the cost of excellence in any specific role. German doctrine correctly emphasizes purpose-built vehicles optimized for specific tasks. This assessment, circulated through German officer training schools, established consensus: American half-tracks were inferior vehicles produced by a nation that substituted quantity for quality. What German analysis missed were the operational characteristics that made the half-track extraordinarily effective despite its apparent limitations. First, reliability. The M3 used the White 160 AX 6-cylinder engine, essentially a commercial truck engine, producing 147 horsepower. This was less powerful than the Hanomags Maybach HL42 engine, but the American engine required minimal maintenance and could run on low-grade fuel. German reports from North Africa and Italy noted with confusion that American half-tracks continued operating after weeks without maintenance, running on captured German fuel, French fuel, Italian fuel, anything combustible. Hanomags, with their more sophisticated engines, required specific lubricants, precise maintenance schedules, and high-grade fuel. Second, speed. The M3's simple drivetrain and powerful engine, designed for American highways, translated to exceptional cross-country mobility. Official specifications listed 25 miles per hour off-road, but crews regularly exceeded 35 miles per hour across French farmland, faster than German tanks could manage on roads. Lieutenant Hans von Luck, commanding the 125th Panzer Grenadier Regiment, recorded this phenomenon in his diary. June 28, 1944, Normandy. Observed American mechanized infantry advancing across fields at speeds we achieve only on paved roads. Their half-tracks move cross-country faster than our panzers move on highways. This makes no tactical sense. Their vehicles are lighter armored and should be more cautious. Instead, they advance with speed that prevents us from establishing defensive positions. Third, versatility. The M3's simple design allowed it to be modified rapidly for dozens of roles. The same basic chassis became M3 infantry carrier, M3A1 scout car, M4 81mm mortar carrier, M15 anti-aircraft platform with twin .50 caliber machine guns, M16 anti-aircraft platform with quad .50 caliber machine guns, M21 81mm mortar carrier, T19 105mm howitzer motor carriage, T28 75mm gun motor carriage, M14 multiple rocket launcher, and dozens more variants. American mechanized battalions could field specialized vehicles for every tactical requirement while maintaining common spare parts, training, and maintenance procedures. German forces, by contrast, operated multiple incompatible vehicle types, each optimized for specific roles but requiring unique spare parts, specialized training, and different maintenance procedures. The tactical excellence of each individual vehicle was offset by logistical nightmare at formation level. By the time of D-Day, American forces in Normandy fielded over 15,000 half-tracks of all types. German forces in France had approximately 2,500 Hanomags and various other tracked vehicles, outnumbered 6-to-1 in mechanized transport capacity alone. German officers recognized the numerical disparity, but remained confident that tactical superiority would overcome American quantitative advantage. This confidence was rooted in experience. German forces had successfully fought outnumbered in Russia, North Africa, and Italy through superior tactics and weapon systems. What they failed to understand was that the half-track represented not just a vehicle, but a different operational philosophy. American mechanized doctrine didn't emphasize protection and staying power, it emphasized mobility and tempo. The goal wasn't to withstand enemy fire, but to move too fast to be effectively engaged. The M3 thin armor was deliberate, not a limitation. Thicker armor meant more weight, which meant less speed and higher fuel consumption. American planners calculated that speed and mobility provided better survival than static protection. Better to avoid being hit than to survive being hit. This philosophy baffled German tactical thinking. Wehrmacht doctrine emphasized taking positions and holding them against counterattack. American doctrine increasingly emphasized bypassing strong points and advancing so rapidly that German forces couldn't form coherent defensive lines. The half-track was perfect for this approach, fast enough to exploit breakthroughs, reliable enough to sustain high-tempo operations, numerous enough that losses didn't matter operationally, versatile enough to handle any tactical requirement. By August 1944, as German forces prepared counterattacks in Normandy, Wehrmacht intelligence had compiled comprehensive data on American half-tracks. The assessments remained dismissive. The M3 half-track is typical of American military thinking. Adequate through abundance rather than excellent through design. It provides satisfactory performance in multiple roles without excelling in any. Against properly conducted German defensive operations, these vehicles will prove vulnerable to all forms of anti-tank fire and will be unable to maintain offensive momentum against determined resistance. This assessment was about to be tested in the most dramatic fashion possible, when German panzers attacked American mechanized forces directly, and when American mechanized forces pursued retreating German armies across France. The results would shatter German assumptions about the relationship between vehicle quality and operational success. August 7, 1944, Operation Lüttich, Hitler's personal order for a counterattack to cut off Patton's breakthrough and drive to the sea, splitting Allied forces and replicating the 1940 victory in reverse. The plan was bold, even desperate. 4 panzer divisions, Panzer Lehr, 2nd Panzer, 1st SS Panzer, and 2nd SS Panzer, would attack westward from Mortain, cut through American lines, and reach Avranches on the coast 30 miles away. Once there, they would isolate Patton's Third Army and destroy it piecemeal. German planning assumed American mechanized forces would be caught off guard and would lack the tactical cohesion to respond effectively. The half-tracks, vulnerable to panzer fire, would be destroyed or scattered. American infantry, dismounted from their trucks with tracks, would be overrun. The attack began at midnight on August 7th, with 141 German tanks striking American positions held by the 30th Infantry Division. a unit extensively equipped with M3 half-tracks for mobility. Initial German progress seemed to validate their tactical assumptions. Panzers broke through American frontline positions, destroyed several half-tracks caught in defensive positions, and advanced several miles by dawn. Hitler received reports suggesting the counterattack was succeeding. But something unexpected was happening that German intelligence didn't immediately recognize. The American half-tracks weren't trying to fight the Panzers. They were repositioning faster than the Panzers could advance. Lieutenant Colonel Hammond Burks, commanding 2nd Battalion, 120th Infantry Regiment, received word of a German breakthrough at 0220 hours. His battalion was positioned in reserve, 5 miles behind the front, with infantry mounted in M3 half-tracks. Traditional defensive doctrine would have his infantry dismount, establish positions, and wait for German attack. Burks did the opposite. He kept his infantry mounted and moved to flank the German penetration at maximum speed. "We weren't going to sit and let them come to us," Burks reported after the battle. "The half-tracks gave us mobility the Germans couldn't match once they were off roads. We moved cross-country at 30 to 35 miles per hour, repositioned to their flanks, and hit them from directions they didn't expect." By dawn on August 7th, Burke's battalion had repositioned twice, moving over 15 miles cross-country in darkness, something German commanders thought impossible for mechanized infantry at night. German after-action reports reveal growing confusion. 5:45 a.m., enemy mechanized infantry observed 3 kilometers northeast of our axis of advance. Source unknown. 6:12 a.m., same enemy force engaged our flank. Strong resistance. American half-tracks firing from concealed positions. 6:40 a.m., enemy force withdrawn. Pursuit delayed by need to reorganize. 7:15 a.m., different enemy mechanized force observed 2 kilometers northwest. Again on our flank. How are they repositioning so rapidly? The answer was simple. The half-tracks moved faster cross-country than German intelligence believed possible, and American doctrine emphasized movement over static defense. Oberst von Lauchert, commanding Panzer Lehr, found his advance repeatedly disrupted by American mechanized infantry appearing on his flanks, engaging with mounted weapons, then withdrawing before his panzers could bring effective fire. The half-tracks were using shoot-and-scoot tactics that prevented German forces from establishing the kind of sustained engagements where panzer superiority would be decisive. More problematic, the Americans were calling in devastating artillery fire. The half-tracks, equipped with SCR 510 radios, could communicate directly with artillery battalions. American forward observers in half-tracks could keep pace with German advances and continuously call in fire missions. German forces advanced 7 miles in the first 24 hours, far slower than the 30 miles needed to reach Avranches. The American half-tracks hadn't stopped the attack through direct combat. They'd slowed it through mobility, disrupting German tempo and denying the rapid penetration that Blitzkrieg tactics required. By August 8th, Allied air superiority became decisive. But even on the ground, the half-tracks proved their value in unexpected ways. Lieutenant James Burt, commanding a platoon of 2nd Armored Division, described the tactical effectiveness. "The Germans had better tanks. Their Panthers could destroy our Shermans at ranges where we couldn't penetrate them. But tanks are blind and slow without infantry support. The half-tracks let us keep infantry with our tanks at all times, at their speed, across any terrain. When panzers appeared, our tanks engaged frontally while half-tracks moved infantry to flanks. The Germans had to choose, fight our tanks or deal with infantry working around them. Usually they withdrew rather than risk being flanked. We didn't outfight them, we outmaneuvered them because our infantry stayed mobile." By August 12th, Operation Luttich had failed completely. German forces withdrew, having advanced only 7 miles maximum, a rate of advance slower than American infantry could march. The counterattack that was supposed to split Allied armies had been contained by American mobility and firepower, with half-tracks playing a crucial role in maintaining defensive flexibility. But the true demonstration of half-track capability came next, when the tactical situation reversed and American forces went on the offensive. August 13th, 1944. The failure of Operation Luttich left German forces in Normandy in a deadly position. American forces to the west, British and Canadian forces to the north, and the growing realization that the entire German 7th Army and 5th Panzer Army were about to be encircled. What followed became known as the Falaise Pocket, a race between German forces trying to escape and Allied forces trying to close the trap. It was here that the American half-track demonstrated its true strategic value. The 2nd Armored Division, heavily equipped with half-tracks, was ordered to advance northeast from positions near Barrington to link up with Canadian forces and close the pocket. The distance, approximately 40 miles of French countryside, through areas still containing German rearguards across terrain that had seen weeks of combat. German defensive planning assumed this advance would take 4 to 5 days minimum. Mechanized forces needed roads, and roads could be blocked and defended. Cross-country movement, especially for vehicles carrying infantry, would be slow and methodical. German rear guards would have time to establish positions, delay American advances, and allow main German forces to withdraw eastward. The 2nd Armored Division made the 40-mile advance in 31 hours. The half-tracks simply drove cross-country, bypassing German roadblocks, ignoring prepared defensive positions, moving at speeds that German intelligence had calculated were impossible for mechanized infantry. Major General Ernest Harmon, commanding 2nd Armored, later described the operation. "We didn't follow roads because roads were where Germans expected us. The half-tracks let us move infantry across open country at tank speed. 25 to 35 miles per hour sustained, we bypassed strong points because we could. The Germans prepared defenses on roads and found us coming across fields to their rear. The half-tracks broke down less than our tanks. They used less fuel. They carried their own infantry, their own mortars, their own machine guns. Each half-track was a mobile fortress that could keep moving all day and night. The Germans couldn't establish defensive lines because we moved faster than they could position." The speed of American pursuit shocked German commanders who had conducted the fastest advances in military history during the French campaign of 1940. During that campaign, German mechanized forces averaged 15 to 20 miles per day over 6 weeks, a pace considered extraordinarily rapid. American mechanized forces in August 1944 were sustaining 30 to 50 miles per day, not for days but for weeks. The half-tracks were key to this pace, keeping infantry mobile and allowing American forces to maintain relentless pressure. Lieutenant Hans von Luck, now desperately trying to organize German retreat, recorded the experience. August 15, 1944. American mechanized forces everywhere. We establish defensive positions, they bypass them. We block roads, they drive across fields. We retreat 10 kilometers, they're already ahead of us. Their half-tracks seem to be faster than our motorcycles. The vehicles we dismissed as trucks with tracks are proving more strategically mobile than our panzers. They move faster, consume less fuel, break down less frequently, and appear in unexpected locations. We cannot establish defensive lines because Americans maintain contact faster than we can disengage. This is not the methodical American advance we expected. This is pursuit warfare faster than our own Blitzkrieg operations. The half-tracks we mocked are destroying us not through combat power, but through operational mobility. The Falaise Pocket closed on August 21st. Over 50,000 German soldiers were captured, with an estimated 10,000 killed. 2 entire German armies had been destroyed or shattered. The survivors streamed eastward in disorganized retreat, and the half-tracks kept coming. What followed became known as the Great Swan, or Red Ball Express race, on American mechanized forces pursuing defeated German armies across France faster than the Germans had advanced in 1940. The 2nd Armored Division reached the Seine River on August 19th, covering 200 miles from Normandy in 1 week. Other American mechanized divisions matched this pace. The 4th Armored Division, spearheading Patton's 3rd Army, advanced 400 miles in 3 weeks, twice the rate of German Blitzkrieg in 1940. The half-tracks made this possible. Infantry stayed mounted, moving with tanks at maximum speed. When resistance appeared, infantry dismounted, flanked the position, while tanks provided suppressing fire, and mounted up again to continue pursuit, all without significantly slowing the advance. German after-action reports from this period reveal complete disintegration of defensive coherence. August 23, 1944. Enemy mechanized forces observed in 6 separate locations along 50-kilometer front. Estimate impossible. Assessment. Our reconnaissance is detecting same force multiple times. Reality. American mechanized divisions are actually achieving dispersion of this magnitude while maintaining offensive pressure. August 25, 1944. Paris liberated. American forces bypassed city and continue eastward. Pursuit speed 40 to 60 kilometers daily average. German retreat speed 30 to 40 kilometers daily maximum. Americans closing gap despite our defensive efforts. August 30th, 1944. American half-track equipped forces now at German border in some sectors. Distance covered 600 kilometers in 25 days. Rate 24 kilometers per day average. This exceeds any sustained operational advance in military history, including our own 1940 campaign, 18 kilometers per day average. The statistics were devastating for German operational planning. German advance, France 1940. Distance, 450 miles Paris to Atlantic coast. Time 25 days. Average 18 miles per day. Considered historically unprecedented rapid advance. American advance, France 1944. Distance, 600 plus miles Normandy to German border. Time 25 days. Average 24 plus miles per day. Sustained despite opposition and supply difficulties. The half-track's contribution to this operational mobility became clear in comparative breakdowns in fuel consumption. German mechanized infantry movement 1940. Primary SDKFZ 251 half-tracks plus trucks plus motorcycles. Mechanical breakdowns 15 to 20% of vehicles daily during rapid advances. Fuel consumption high, required frequent resupply stops. Cross-country capability limited to prepared routes and favorable terrain. American mechanized infantry movement 1944. Primary M3 half-tracks standardized across formations. Mechanical breakdowns 5 to 8% during rapid advances. Fuel consumption, moderate 6 to 8 miles per gallon versus German 4 to 5 miles per gallon. Cross-country capability, extensive, operated across all terrain types. Captured German maintenance officers provided testimony about this disparity. Major Heinrich Holtz, former maintenance officer with 2nd Panzer Division, interrogated September 1944. The American half-track was mechanically simpler than our Hanomags by perhaps 30%. Simpler engine, simpler transmission, simpler track system. German doctrine emphasizes optimization. Each component designed specifically for military use, achieving maximum performance. American approach: use commercial truck components, add tracks, accept lower individual performance. Result: their vehicles were easier to maintain, easier to repair, easier to produce. Our Hanomags performed better in controlled conditions. Their half-tracks performed better in sustained operations because they didn't break down. We had superior vehicles but couldn't keep them running. They had adequate vehicles they could keep running indefinitely in sustained operations. This made their inferior vehicles operationally superior. The pursuit continued through September 1944. American mechanized forces reached the Siegfried Line, Germany's western defensive system, in early September, having covered over 600 miles in 5 weeks. The operational mobility demonstrated during this period redefined mechanized warfare. The half-track, initially dismissed as a compromise vehicle, had enabled the fastest sustained advance by ground forces in military history, faster than German Blitzkrieg, faster than Soviet deep operations, faster than any previous mechanized campaign. And it did this not through superior combat power, but through relentless operational mobility. The ability to keep moving day after day, across all terrain, maintaining tempo that prevented enemies from ever establishing effective defense. By October 1944, German military intelligence had been forced to completely reassess American mechanized capabilities. The vehicles they had mocked 8 months earlier were now recognized as potentially the most effective mechanized infantry platform of the war. A comprehensive German intelligence report compiled in October 1944, captured after the war, provided remarkable analysis. Assessment: American M3 half-track series. Previous assessments dismissed this vehicle as inferior to German equivalents based on armor protection and specialized capability. Operational experience August to September 1944 requires complete revision of this assessment. Tactical level, the M3 is inferior to S DKFZ 251 in direct combat. Thinner armor, open top, less optimized for infantry fighting. In vehicle-to-vehicle engagement, Hanomags superior. Operational level, the M3 is superior to all German mechanized infantry vehicles in sustained operations. Key advantages. Reliability, 40% fewer breakdowns during sustained advances. Speed, 25 to 30% faster cross-country in practice despite similar specifications. Fuel efficiency, 30 to 40% better range per liter. Maintenance, requires 50% less maintenance time. Versatility, single chassis serves roles requiring 4 to 5 German vehicle types. Strategic level, the M3's operational advantages create strategic capabilities German forces cannot match. American mechanized divisions sustain 30 to 50 kilometers daily advances for weeks. German mechanized divisions sustain 20 to 30 kilometers daily advances for days before mechanical attrition degrades capability. Result: American forces achieve operational pursuit speeds that prevent defensive line formation. Conclusion: American half-track represents different design philosophy. Optimization for sustained operations rather than peak performance. In fluid operational situations, pursuit, exploitation, meeting engagements, this design philosophy proves superior to German approach. Recommendation: German doctrine must adapt to American operational mobility, not dismiss it as inferior. Enemy mechanized infantry can outmaneuver German forces despite inferior individual vehicle characteristics. This assessment, circulated to Wehrmacht headquarters, represented a complete reversal of previous German thinking, but it came too late to affect German operational capabilities. German production couldn't match American half-track numbers. The United States produced over 41,000 half-tracks during the war, more mechanized infantry carriers than Germany produced of all tracked vehicle types combined. The industrial disparity that German officers had dismissed as quantity over quality proved decisive at the strategic level. Moreover, German tactical doctrine remained rooted in principles that emphasized combat power over mobility. Wehrmacht training emphasized holding positions, conducting deliberate attacks, and maximizing firepower. American doctrine increasingly emphasized movement exploitation and maintaining tempo. The half-track was optimized for American doctrine while being adequate for German doctrine. German vehicles were optimized for German doctrine while being inadequate for American-style operations. As warfare increasingly favored mobility over static defense, American equipment philosophy proved more effective. Individual German commanders who grasped this tried to adapt. Oberst Hans von Lauchert, commanding various battle groups in France, issued tactical guidance to his units. Fighting American mechanized forces: do not establish static defenses on obvious positions. Americans will bypass and appear behind you faster than you can reorient. Do not assume American half-tracks will fight for positions. They will engage briefly, then withdraw, using mobility to compensate for protection deficiencies. Do not expect to destroy American mechanized forces through superior tactics. Their mobility allows them to disengage before decisive action occurs. Do expect Americans to maintain contact indefinitely. Their vehicles' reliability means they can pursue for days without pause. Plan withdrawals assuming enemy maintains pressure without respite. Recognize we are fighting operational mobility, not tactical excellence. This is a new type of warfare where tempo matters more than technique. These tactical instructions, essentially admitting German operational inferiority, were captured by American forces and provided to intelligence analysts. They confirmed that German commanders understood they were being outmaneuvered by equipment they had initially dismissed. Post-war interviews with German officers provided even more candid assessments. General der Panzertruppen Leo Geyer von Schweppenburg, commanding Panzer Group West during the Normandy campaign, stated in 1947 interrogation, "We studied American equipment before the invasion and concluded we had significant advantages. Our panzers were superior to their Shermans. Our infantry weapons were superior to theirs. Our tactical doctrine was more sophisticated than theirs. What we failed to understand was that they had designed their equipment for a different type of warfare. Their half-tracks weren't meant to fight, they were meant to move. Their doctrine emphasized maintaining continuous pressure rather than achieving decisive engagements. The result? We won tactical engagements but lost operational campaigns. We destroyed more of their vehicles than they destroyed of ours in direct combat, but they replaced losses immediately while maintaining advances. While we couldn't replace losses and couldn't maintain defensive coherence, the half-track symbolizes this difference. Inferior to our equivalent in combat, superior in operations, decisive at strategic level. We designed vehicles to win battles. They designed vehicles to win wars. The half-track won the war in France because it kept American infantry moving at speeds we couldn't match. The most remarkable testament to the half-track's effectiveness came from its longevity. While German Hanomags disappeared after World War II, replaced by new designs, the M3 half-track served in frontline roles until the 1970s. U.S. Army. Service through the 1950s. Extensive Korean War use. Israeli Defense Forces. Frontline service through 1973 Yom Kippur War. Arab armies. Service through the 1960s to 70s. South American military. Service into the 1980s. This 30-plus year frontline career testified that the compromised design worked extraordinarily well in practice. The vehicle that achieved neither tank-level protection nor truck-level efficiency proved optimally balanced for real-world mechanized operations. Modern military historians recognize the M3 as one of World War II's most successful vehicle designs. Dr. R.P. Honeycutt, armor historian, the half-track's significance wasn't appreciated during the war because it was so ubiquitous. Like the Jeep, it became invisible through familiarity. But its contribution to American operational mobility was immense. It made American mechanized infantry genuinely mobile, in ways German mechanized infantry never achieved. Colonel David Glantz, military historian, the Wehrmacht's mechanized infantry divisions were mechanized in name only. Most infantry still marched on foot, with only elite formations fully motorized. American divisions were mechanically mobile throughout, largely due to half-track availability. This created fundamental operational advantages that German tactical skill couldn't overcome. The half-track's success lay in understanding that mechanized warfare required optimization for sustained operations rather than peak performance. A vehicle that could move 200 miles in a week was more valuable than a vehicle that performed better in any single engagement but couldn't maintain that operational tempo. The final statistics of M3 half-track operations in the European theater demonstrate the vehicle's extraordinary contribution to Allied victory. Production and deployment. Total M3/M2 series produced 41,170 vehicles. Deployed to European theater, 19,500 plus vehicles. Average operational availability 85% versus 70% for German equivalents. Total miles driven in combat operations, estimated 650 plus million miles. Mechanical loss rate, 3.2% per month versus 8% for German mechanized vehicles. Operational achievements. French campaign, August to September 1944. Enabled 600 plus mile advance in 25 days. Pursuit operations maintained 30 to 50 mile daily advances for weeks. Rhine crossing, March 1945. Transported 50,000 troops across river in 48 hours. Final advance into Germany, 45 to 60 mile daily advances sustained for 2 weeks. Comparative performance. Average sustained advance rate 24 miles per day versus German 1940 rate of 18 miles per day. Cross-country speed, 25 to 30 miles per hour achieved versus 12 to 15 miles per hour for German equivalents. Fuel efficiency, 6 to 8 miles per gallon versus 4 to 5 miles per gallon for German half-tracks. Production costs, $13,000 per unit versus $18,000 plus for German Hanomag, inflation adjusted. Strategic impact. Enabled operational tempo that prevented German defensive line formation. Allowed American forces to outpace German retreat throughout France. Maintained mechanized infantry capability across all American divisions. Provided versatile platform for 30-plus variant designs. These numbers tell the story of how industrial pragmatism defeated tactical perfectionism, how good enough mass production overwhelmed purpose-built excellence, and how mobility proved more decisive than protection. In 1979, at a military history symposium in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, veterans from both sides discussed mechanized warfare. The exchange between former adversaries provided fitting closure to the half-track story. General A.D. Hans von Luck, who had commanded German mechanized forces in Normandy and conducted the fighting retreat across France, met Lieutenant General James Burt, former platoon leader in 2nd Armored Division, who had pursued German forces in those same battles. Von Luck's comments, recorded for military archives: "We looked at your half-tracks before D-Day and saw vehicles that violated everything we knew about mechanized warfare. Open tops, vulnerable to artillery, thin armor, inadequate against anti-tank weapons. Half-track configuration, compromise that achieved neither tank nor truck efficiency. We were right tactically and completely wrong operationally. In any single engagement, our vehicles performed better. Over sustained operations, your half-tracks proved superior in every way that mattered. You could move infantry at 30 miles per hour across open country. We couldn't. You could sustain this for weeks. We couldn't. You could keep 85% of vehicles operational during rapid advances. We managed 70% at best. You had enough vehicles to equip every formation. We could only mechanize elite units. The half-track proved that in modern mobile warfare, adequate vehicles you can build by thousands are better than excellent vehicles you build by hundreds. This was a hard lesson, learned while your half-tracks chased us across France faster than we had advanced in 1940. General Burt responded. We didn't think of the half-track as revolutionary, it was just our ride. But it did everything we needed, kept up with tanks, carried our weapons, protected us from small arms. Most importantly, it never broke down. I remember crossing France in August 1944. We'd drive all day, stop for fuel and food, drive all night, stop briefly at dawn, keep going. The half-tracks just ran. Drivers would fall asleep at the wheel and the vehicle would keep rolling straight until someone woke them up. They were simple enough that anyone could fix minor problems with basic tools. The Germans would establish defensive positions, and we'd drive around them. They'd retreat 10 miles and we'd already be ahead of them. Not because we were better soldiers, but because our vehicles let us move faster with less effort. The half-track made us mobile in ways we didn't fully appreciate until later. Dr. Martin van Creveld, military historian and symposium moderator, provided academic context. The M3 half-track demonstrates a fundamental principle. Military equipment must be optimized for the full operational cycle, not just combat performance. A tank that's invincible but constantly broken down is less useful than a tank that's merely adequate but always operational. American equipment philosophy emphasized reliability, maintainability, and producibility. These aren't glamorous characteristics, but they prove decisive in sustained operations. German philosophy emphasized performance optimization, which created tactically superior equipment that was operationally inferior due to complexity, fragility, and production limitations. The half-track succeeded not despite being a compromise, but because it was the right compromise. It sacrificed peak performance for sustained performance, tactical excellence for operational effectiveness, individual superiority for collective capability. In doing so, it became arguably the war's most successful mechanized infantry vehicle. The half-track's legacy extends beyond World War II. Modern mechanized infantry vehicles, from the M113 to the Bradley to the Stryker, embody principles the half-track established. Prioritize mobility and reliability over protection. Use common platforms for multiple roles. Optimize for sustained operations rather than peak performance. Build enough vehicles to equip all units rather than building perfect vehicles for elite units. In the U.S. Army Armor and Cavalry Collection at Fort Benning, a restored M3 half-track sits alongside a captured SDKF 251 Hanomag. 251. The comparative display includes a quote from an unnamed German officer recorded in 1944. We built a better vehicle. They built a better system. Our half-tracks were superior in protection, fighting capability, and design elegance. Their half-tracks were superior in reliability, production volume, and operational utility. In war, their advantages proved more important than ours. We learned this by being chased across France by vehicles we had mocked as inferior. They were not inferior, They were different, and their differences made them better for the war that was actually fought rather than the war we had planned for. The German officers who mocked American half-tracks in August 1944 spent September 1944 being pursued by those same vehicles across France. They had advanced farther, faster, than the Wehrmacht's legendary Blitzkrieg, driven not by tactical brilliance but by industrial pragmatism and mechanical reliability. The half-tracks weren't beautiful. They weren't elegant, they weren't optimized for any specific role. But they worked, they kept working, and there were enough of them to equip every American mechanized unit. In modern warfare, that proved better than building perfect vehicles in inadequate numbers. The mongrel half-track, neither proper tank nor proper truck, became the most successful mechanized infantry vehicle of World War II by refusing to be either one. The German generals who mocked it learned this lesson while watching American mechanized infantry disappear over the horizon, moving faster than German panzers could follow, winning through mobility what they might have lost through direct combat. Sometimes the best weapon isn't the most powerful or the most protected. It's the one that keeps moving when everything else has stopped.